Today we're breaking down some pretty serious warnings about the U.S. economy. We're going to talk about what that alarming phrase, point of no return, actually means. You know, that moment when a country's ability to choose its own path forward, well, it just kind of disappears.
So let's just start with one single fact that really puts everything into perspective. As you can see right here, the U.S. now spends more paying the interest on its debt than it does on its entire military. We're talking $1 trillion bill every single year just to cover the cost of past borrowing.
And this chart, wow, it lays it out in really stark terms, doesn't it? For the very first time, that bar for interest on debt has shot up higher than our entire national defense budget. Just think about that for a second. All the money for our troops, our planes, our ships is now less than what we pay just to service our loans. That is a huge shift in our national priorities.
So the big question is, how on earth did we get here? Let's take a second to really look at the scale of these numbers, because honestly, they are so big, they're kind of hard to even wrap your head around without some context. First, the big one, our total national debt. Right now, it's sitting at a jaw-dropping $36 trillion. That number on the screen, that's every single dollar the U.S. government has borrowed throughout its entire history that it still has to pay back.
And that massive number, it's not just sitting there. It's growing by nearly $2 trillion this year alone. That's the deficit, the gap between what the government brings in through taxes and what it spends. It's kind of like adding another $2 trillion to the national credit card in just 1 year.
This whole trajectory is putting our debt on a path to hit 120% of our gross domestic product. And remember, GDP is the total value of everything our country produces in a year. We're on track to owe more than we make, a level we have not seen since the end of World War II. And this slide really hits home the crucial difference. After the war, the country basically buckled down, and that huge debt level came way down. But today, there's no plan in place to reverse the trend. In fact, all the projections show it just keeps going up and up. And that, right there, is a structural problem.
But, you know, this massive debt isn't happening in a vacuum. If we kind of look under the hood of the economy, we can start to see other cracks forming, problems that really challenge some of the more optimistic headlines you might be hearing.
Let's take tariffs, for example. These are taxes on imported goods, and they were meant to protect American industry. But the data shows they have a hidden cost. They can drive up prices for all of us, putting a real squeeze on family budgets. And the promised benefits, like a big boom in manufacturing jobs, well, they don't always show up as planned.
At the same time, you'll hear that the job market is strong. And yeah, on the surface, the official unemployment number, 4.1%, looks pretty healthy, pretty manageable.
But is that number really telling us the whole story? I mean, what happens when we look just one layer deeper into that data? The reality is a much weaker market, especially for young people and for those who've been out of work for a long time. And here's a key detail. Because of slower population growth, we now need far fewer new jobs just to keep things stable. That can make a pretty mediocre jobs report look much, much better than it actually is. And all of this leads us right to the American consumer, the real engine of our economy. And as this slide suggests, that engine is under some serious stress. With prices high and wage growth feeling sluggish, families are definitely feeling squeezed. And when the consumer, who drives a whopping 70% of our economy, starts to crack, the whole system is at risk.
All right, now let's turn from the pressures of today to a problem that isn't a possibility. It's a certainty with a fixed deadline. This isn't a maybe. This is a when. And it's the Social Security crisis.
This timeline shows exactly why this is a ticking clock. Back in 1965, you had 4 workers paying into the system for every one retiree taking money out. Today, that's down to less than 3. And the date you really need to see is 2032. That's when the main trust fund is projected to run dry, triggering an automatic and frankly devastating benefit cut for millions of seniors unless something changes.
And if we look even further down the road, the long-term funding gap is almost incomprehensible. That number on your screen, $25 trillion, is what the system is short over the next 75 years. It is a hole so deep it's hard to even imagine how you'd fill it.
So Congress has 3 main ways to try and fix this, but all of them are politically painful. I mean, whether it's taking on massive market risk, raising taxes, or cutting benefits, every single option will make a large group of voters very, very unhappy, which is exactly why, for years, no action has been taken.
Now, amidst all this challenging news, there is one giant wildcard that everyone is talking about as a potential game changer: artificial intelligence.
AI could be the lifeline. The hope is that it triggers this massive productivity boom, growing the economy so fast that our debt problems basically solve themselves. But the fear? The fear is that it's just another tech bubble that pops and drags the whole economy down before those benefits ever arrive. And right now, nobody knows for sure.
So let's bring all of these different threads together to understand what economists actually mean when they use that dramatic phrase, point of no return.
The point of no return, it isn't a single event, like a market crash. It's the moment your policy options to fix the debt just disappear. It's when you can't cut spending enough, you can't raise taxes enough, and you can't grow the economy fast enough to escape the gravity of your interest payments. You're just stuck.
And what makes this moment so perilous is the convergence you see right here. It's not just one problem. It is a perfect storm. You have the structural deficit, the looming Social Security deadline, ongoing trade disruptions, and high interest rates all hitting at the exact same time. It leaves very, very little room for error.
Now look, the US is not at that point of no return yet, but the trajectory is clear, and the window for making less painful choices is getting smaller every single year. Which leaves us with a final, crucial question to consider as we look ahead.